from me, I'm going to hand over to Dean. That's why you're all here this morning. And over to you, Dean.
Yeah, any questions, ask me. That's absolutely fine as we go along. Hopefully, we're just going to try and give a little bit of a view of what's going on, and a little bit of flavor of what you need to do to fix it. And then there might be lots of questions around what you are doing, or and we can try and make it more specific for the audience. So the first start is, what's the problem and what's going on. So I'm going to use some slides here. So first of all, obviously you have the search is changing, or there's a shift. So 41% of B2B buyers are using AI to search as their primary channel to find new suppliers. And that comes from McKinsey research. It's not me throwing a figure out. Gartner predicts that or 25% of all search traffic is projected to shift to AI by the end of 2026. But the data actually is showing that that could be a lot more in reality. So if we make that real, if Ofcom reports that there are 3 billion Google searches in the UK every month, that means 750 million searches are moving to AI every month alone. So it's not on Google, it's inside a conversation where AI decides who gets mentioned. AI becomes the gatekeeper. It's a bit like, when we moved from, I suppose, kind of to Uber, and we moved to Just Eats, and we moved to Netflix. There was a layer in between the actual business at the end. So AI becomes the gatekeeper in an AI era moving forward. So who in the room would say that they know how visible their business is in AI search at the moment? Would anyone feel comfortable to say that? No? So that's quite common. Not many people know where they are in this problem. So I sat on a Microsoft webinar last week. I was incredibly intrigued because the Microsoft webinar was around advertising, using Microsoft's software and infrastructure, and the future of advertising. Now, we currently don't do ads. We will, because the plan is to become the experts in AI ads, in ChatGPT ads, which are coming to the UK and have been rolled out in the US for the last 6 months. So we'll get involved with ads, so that's why I went along to this thing. But it was really interesting. This is how they laid it out, that there are 3 layers. So there's the traditional search where we always were. So people search, people click, people decide. They feel like now we're in the AI search. So 30% of people are in, well, 41% according to McKinsey are in this AI search. So what they're doing is they're assembling a shortlist, both for discovery and for decision in AI search. Layer 3 that Microsoft laid out was that people don't search, agents do, and they buy without a human touching it. And so they've built the infrastructure in Microsoft for their businesses that work with them to allow a business to have agents, not people, not websites, but agents. And then all of these AI agents, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok, DeepSeek, all around the world, there's agents. They will never visit or talk to a human or a website or social media. You're either visible and the agent will deal with the agent, or you're not, and you'll have no customers. Well, you won't have customers from that part of the search, essentially. So that's a fundamental shift that they've laid out, and I wanted to share with you. It's a big problem. Also, what I noticed was that people are starting to fix that problem. Shopify have also, for some of our clients, added agentic infrastructure to their platform for layer 3. So they've already built the solution. And so anyone who works with Shopify and has products to sell, they don't have to worry about this problem. But if you have a standalone website and you have products to sell, you now have to build agentic infrastructure and MCPs and into your website. Otherwise, agent can't deal with agent. and they won't deal with humans or websites. So it's quite an interesting shift. So layer one is kind of the world as we knew it. Search, people then click, people then decide, and then they contact the company, either via the website or whatever channel is inbound. And it still works for now. Microsoft think that this will still be around in a couple of years' time. So the next 2 years is kind of the shift. And some people will stay in layer one. So you're going to have actually business across layer one, layer two, layer three for the next 10 years, is their vision of it. Layer two is where we are. So 41% of people are going into ChatGPT, and people say, find a type of business near me. It might be that they say, find me a community of people who are starting businesses, growing businesses that I can get peer to peer. I can speak to people who talk my language, understand my problems. I can network. I can find suppliers. They're going to ask a much longer question often.
Dean, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. Ed's asked a very good question here.
Oh,
how do
yeah.
we find out where we stand on AI search?
So there are a number of different platforms. So there's always been platforms for SEO. So you've had like Ahrefs, SEMrush, these kind of companies where they'll tell you everything about your SEO. If you want them to tell you about your AI search, then get ready to pay them £600 to £1,000 a month just to track the problem. People like HubSpot have built that infrastructure in. So some of your CRM systems will have built in AI visibility now and started to launch beta products to track the problem at a lower price because of that, because it's difficult to find out. You could do it manually. You could think of the top 20 to 30 questions you'd want to be the answer for, and then manually put question into ChatGPT, question into Gemini, question into Claude, question into Grok, and start asking the AI agents yourself and see who turns up. That's a really great discovery thing to be doing for your business at the moment, because you're going to see if you turn up, you're going to see if your competitors turn up, and in what capacity do they turn up? Is it a YouTube video? Is it a Reddit citing? Is it their website? And then we have a tool called Answer Architect that you can subscribe to for £39 a month. That will track your visibility, give you a score ongoing, give you reporting, weekly reports. So when you get cited, what did you get cited for? It will tell you that via email. You can also use it to write blogs and get into listicles, which I'll come on to in a moment. So there are a number of different ways. And what I'll do is I'll put that in the chat, in the WhatsApp chat afterwards, the different ways that you could search. Hopefully that answered the question for you. So the idea is that if you're not on it, that you don't exist in layer two. So either make the change or you don't. Layer three is already built. It's coming fast. It's not a me saying, oh, this could happen and it's a bit woo-woo. Microsoft have built it. Shopify have built it. Yes or yes, agent to agent is the future that we're going into. And not everyone will adopt it. Remember, Microsoft say that some people will stay in layer one. And so you imagine a split where it's like 30%, 30%, 30%. But if you want a full revenue opportunity, then you need to meet the customers where they are and all the types of buyers. Ollie, if you can filter questions, I can't actually see the chat on my visibility, but if you get any questions come in or someone raises their hand, could you let me know? Okay. So yeah, the reality is layer two is where we're now. Layer three is what we're building. So the next question is, where's your business in this layer? So, I'd make the assumption that everyone in the room wants to grow and everyone wants more revenue, and I think that's fair. And the uncomfortable truth is that 25% of your revenue pipeline is going to go amiss if Gartner are right. So 25% of the people that could buy from you are not. And there won't be any alert to you. There won't be any analytics to flag it. There is no data that can track this for you. It's just that you have fewer inquiries, less revenue. And it's just about trying to be found, I suppose. But it's not just about being found, actually, because what the discovery and the data suggests is that people are using the LLMs like LLM is a large language model. It's what you would call every AI engine is an LLM that gets trained on data and then becomes a machine. But people are using it for comparison. So even if they know you and they're going to compare 4 or 5 different companies, they don't need to do the research now because the research exists on the internet. And so AI is like a mirror. Someone can ask a question, it can go and get all the information on the web and then give a really good answer. So you could compare every company in the world at one time instantly. So people are using it for comparison. So that old school tender stage where you just have to be one of the 3, which most of the people in this room are kind of around, or probably will remember that like me. I was around then where you just had to be one of the 3. But if you're not one of the 3, then you have no chance anyway. And that's the same here. You just have to be one of the answers or you have no chance. So it's when you have, so there's typical problems. So if you're a service-based business, then potentially someone who doesn't know you yet is going to ask ChatGPT to recommend someone who does what you do, and your name is just never going to come up. So it doesn't seem like it's a problem for you. But there are 750 million searches right now. So guaranteed, and if you there isn't something that really tracks the numbers in like a keyword way that SEO used to yet, not to that level of detail, but for most industries, there's going to be tens of thousands of searches, and nobody owns that black box yet. It's the wild, wild west. It's like when SEO first came out, when ads first came out. Nobody owns it. Anyone can dominate, and actually, it's easier for a smaller business than it is a bigger business. And I'll explain why in a moment.
Is there an advantage there, Dean, for small businesses to gain market share against bigger competitors right now? I keep reading. Now is the best time with what's available for founders to really gain market share and grow using the right tools any time in the past.
Now is the for David and Goliath, one of my clients, the reason they signed up to me was that they asked a question. Well, they made a statement actually, and the statement was this: for our product, our competitors are the likes of Procter and Gamble. For us to compete would cost us £250,000 in SEO. So we just don't do this stuff. But they are not, their competitors have next to no visibility, even though they're the biggest in the world, because they don't own the space. In fact, people on page 10 are owning the space, not page 1. It's not the same as SEO. So yeah, anyone can dominate basically, Ollie, and it's easier for a smaller company, which I'll explain why in a minute.
Dean, may I just ask a quick, sorry to interrupt, can I ask a quick question? It's actually just going on a little bit from what Ollie just said. For people like myself who've been in business for a number of years, especially within the real estate industry, we always went down the old traditional route of marketing, advertising, etc. Bringing in a marketing agency that do all your brochures, that do all your advertising campaigns. You'd have all your PR companies putting stuff in the papers and all that kind of stuff, all the traditional stuff. My question really to you is, I think that's sort of still layer 1, if I'm not sort of mistaken, going down the sort of the traditional routes with a little bit more sort of stuff. But those times were extremely expensive. All right.
Mm.
I mean, we were, we were having our, pardon my language, we were having our pants taken down,
Yeah.
and we were getting screwed left, right, and center by marketing agencies, and it really riled me. Something wrong.
Mm.
So, really, my question is to you is in terms of, a marketing budget or a marketing cost, is this sort of layer two and layer three? Is this going to be a lot more achievable from a marketing expenditure with better results, or is it just, or is it going to get pretty expensive? I know we're at the sort of
I'd love
early
to say,
stages.
thanks for that question because it's amazing. I would love to say that that it's really cheap to do. Um, but if we some of the businesses in the room, so Andre, I mean, you probably wouldn't share your revenue, but let's say your revenue was 1 million
Yeah.
and you lose 25% of it is 250,000. That's the cost. So there is kind of, what you can make and how much you can do for marketing, but the reality is there is a shift and you'll never beat the buyer. The buyer will buy how they buy, and if something comes along tomorrow that makes that easier, they'll buy from there. Um, AI is just it's going to become like utility. So it's going to become like electric, it's going to become like gas, it's
The,
like air. It's just something that you use. People will use it. Um,
the problem that I've
mm,
seen is, marketing departments, marketing budgets, whatever it may be, they throw so much money at so many different things that don't work. And if you've got a marketing department and you've got and that you give that marketing department 500 grand a year to spend, they don't think about how they're actually going to spend it, and
mm,
what results you're going to really get from it. They've got a budget of £500,000, and they just go, right, okay, I'm going to spend that £500,000. It's my money at the end of the day. I want them
mm.
to have a budget of £500,000, but I prefer them to spend 250 of it and get me better results.
Yeah. So I think marketing is simple in a way, is that you have something to sell. If nobody knows it's there, nobody can buy it. So visibility has always been um, you know valuable.
Mm.
One of the most valuable assets is visibility, so people can actually buy it. That's what we're solving really, is visibility. Is that it's unfair for businesses to lose revenue, but how does that happen? It all comes back to the same thing that marketing has always existed for, which is brand clarity. Make it really clear and simple what you do. Make it very easy to buy, and then make it very visible. And this generative engine optimization for me, in my view, is exactly that. So it does incorporate some of the stuff that we've always done, just with a shift, putting an AI lens first, because 25% this year becomes 50% next year. And by 2028, 50% in AI and 50% in socials. So the reality is you could be as visible as you like, but you have to be where people make the decision to buy. And then it has to be really clear and obvious. Um, so much of the slides we're going to go through probably answer some of that, Andre. Like this slide will give you a bit of an idea, and a lot of these things are not new. It's just that, news and PR you mentioned, Facebook and Instagram, probably socials was in your marketing budget, LinkedIn probably was, Reddit, probably not, blogs and SEO, probably, but it's not the biggest slice of the pie. YouTube is by far and away for me the biggest opportunity in marketing.
Mm.
And obviously YouTube owned by Google, owned by Gemini, with the biggest AI budget in the world. Technology has always been the same. As new technology comes in, there are a number of players in the market. There's probably 100 LLMs and AI engines. There are 4 or 5 market leading ones, and one is going to win. But that's the same. Amazon was the same. Google was the same. There's trends. So the likelihood is that there'll be 1 or 2 or 3 of the major ones. I mean, who does anyone use Yahoo search anymore? Does anyone use AOL anymore? So there is going to be a winner. At the moment, we don't know what that winner is, but the underlying fact, according to all of them, is that visibility in search is changing. How people buy is changing, and if you want customers, then you have to meet them where they're going to buy. So this drives AI visibility. YouTube, because of the transcripts behind it, are passable to AI. Gemini, well, Google's going to serve up YouTube videos in all of its, but ChatGPT more so recently, Perplexity. Video is quite an important platform. So it just gives you a bit of an idea when you look at, how do you become the most visible company? Probably the answer is all of these things. That does get expensive, Andre. That's where they're going to spend your budget. But it's how visible you want to be. And what, you could still do one platform and do it really well and clean up, but you might not be the most visible company in AI. So what GEO means is optimizing for AI generated answers. So the goal is getting included in the tender process when AI mentions your name alongside 3 to 5, sometimes 10 other businesses. And being there when they compare you, being in control of the data that's there when they compare you. What's it saying about you? Is it saying something it read from 2 years ago because you haven't put anything online recently? That could be dangerous for the comparison stage of that. So how it works, it interprets a question. So it looked like the mirror. So here's the question. Now I'm going to go and look at everything that's online. Who's the most obvious answer? Do they have authority? Do they have the expertise? Have they even answered the question? And that's the problem right now, that a lot of I've sat in front of some of the biggest companies that have tens of thousands of, or 100,000 even in search, but they don't have, they have less than 100 in AI of referral traffic. And that's just because there is no answer. They've done marketing in a way that is keywords and statements, but there needs to be a copy and paste answer, because AI is not an intelligent, well, in that sense, it needs a copy and pastable answer. And that needs to sit somewhere, which is why blogs is a great opportunity, which is why YouTube is a huge opportunity. Reddit, because people asking real questions in a forum style, it's a great way to house those questions and answers. So it's keywords getting demoted, context being the decision. At Google's latest I/O meeting, they extended the search bar, forcing people to do a longer tail search, and the CEO of Google is making it very clear that they're going to Google AI mode. The problem with that is anyone who has tens of thousands of search on Google, those blue links will only be 20 to 30% of the pie. But a lot of the time, they're not in AI overviews. They're not in Google AI mode. They're not in ChatGPT. They're not in Grok, etc. It's a different kind of search that you can choose to be in or not in. And of course, being in it has a revenue. So it's kind of the new SEO unit. People ask longer questions. They include constraints. They want comparisons and decisions in that search. They want to have a conversational search. So the context stack. So what we need to be thinking about is intent, constraints, entities, relationships, evidence, and format fit. So entities over pages. A brand is an entity. So your business. So from an SEO point of view, that still stands. If you have good technical information, if it's very clear what you do and who you help, brilliant. But people are entities too. AI wants to know, well, who owns that brand? Who runs that brand? Why should they be the expert? Why should they be the answer out of 1,000 answers? And it's doing this kind of sales now filter search from, there are 2,000 answers here. Okay, but they don't have any credibility because when I look at their LinkedIn or their socials, it's trying to know, like, and try and trust the brand and the answer in seconds. But if you don't have any answers and you're not very clear and everything online is a bit confusing, you'll never be the answer. It's got to be even more crystal clear than ever, brand clarity. And products and categories too. So the bad news is, in that layer 3 scenario, if you have 1,000 products, but the descriptions are not visible to AI or not formatted in a way that's good for AI, then the agent to agent is not going to work very well. So you're probably going to need to clean up that and have a think about, what are those, what's the product schema, how are we set up for agent to agent in the future? Not many people are there. Maybe 5 to 10% of people are in that layer, but we're definitely going to go there. Otherwise, Microsoft and Shopify and Amazon are not building the infrastructure unless, we're going there. So what does AI prefer to cite? Definitions, step-by-step processes, comparisons, checklists, clear claims with proof of those claims, unique frameworks that you coin as a business, unique ways of working. The general rule that they have is if AI can generate it, it won't get cited. And if it exists on the sea of AI content that's coming now, that won't work. So people think they can solve this problem with kind of AI SEO and, let's create 20 blogs through AI. And we can now, even video, like cloning ourselves is a thing. It's now, it's here, and it's getting better. And that's going to be probably the biggest challenge of all of them. But the point is, I could write 20 blogs this morning using AI, but it probably won't help me because AI is just a mirror. It's going to look at everything that's on the internet and then spit it all back. But it's already there. Like it's got no unique statements. It's got no unique comparisons, no frameworks, So you've got to be people still, our beautiful brains, our creativity, our brand clarity, our thoughts, and all of that make us citable. Less fluff, more clarity, more evidence. Structure's a weapon. So how you structure your content in blogs, on socials, in LinkedIn, on YouTube. You've got to be answering questions. You've got to become like an FAQ. And I'd put it to you guys, if you are in business genuinely to help people and you have something that you think you could help people with, not being visible is an injustice to the people that you could serve is one thing. But two, it actually makes generative engine optimization quite easy because if you can come up with the burning questions that people have and then solve them in your content, then you're probably going to do really well in this side of things because it's like they ask, you answer. If they search, you just give them the answer. That's the game that we're playing here. It just needs, those answers need to sit somewhere. It could be videos, it could be blogs, it could be socials. Does your website answer any questions? Not in the FAQ section. I mean, genuinely in the content on your website, does it answer questions for people? And is it laid out in a copy and paste way? So you want to be thinking about things like comparison articles, comparison content, pricing checks and realities, sharing mistakes that people make in your industry, giving them checklists, giving them playbooks and all this kind of proprietary stuff. So what drives visibility? Well, it's these platforms that we looked at earlier. There's a QR code here, by the way. So if any of this is resonating, that QR code will take you to my diary to book a meeting. Happy to just answer any questions that you've got, share any snippets of wisdom, or just help you to do all of this and win, basically. So that's the end of my little presentation that hopefully gives you a bit of an idea of our vision of what's happening and the importance of it. So I'm happy if anyone's got any questions, we can be a bit more
Well,
interactive.
Dean, Jeff has raised some questions in the chat. Jeff, I'm going to give you the opportunity to place them, put them to Dean.
Just in a
Hi, Jeff.
co-working hub. So hi there. Hi, thanks very much, Dean. That was great. I think it's really, really instructive, slightly scary, but also loving the fact that there's a sort of equalization between those who are relatively tiny and some of the big players. So I didn't want to interrupt the flow. So I had a couple of questions. Do you see a point when the large language models will the input questions that are, that we try and replicate and put in ourselves via HubSpot or whatever, do you see a point where they're going to be effectively pulled through by an aggregator? Is that ever possible, so that you end up almost analogous to search terms where you can see what's been put on the input side? Because my understanding is that's not available now, but I'm interested to understand, will it ever be? And if it does that just make it, if you like, too easy for all the big companies to start chucking money at it?
Well, yeah, and we've been on this journey over kind of the last 18 months. So there were no trackability tools. And then when we first got our first few clients, it was very difficult to give them any kind of reporting, or because there just was nothing, which is why we built Answer Architect in the end, but as we were building that, so were 30 other people, and now there's every man and their dog, and they're varying prices from like £1,000 to 50 quid to track some visibility. Google has made a few announcements in its latest I/O meeting. So it plans to share the impression data. And so what you get viewed for, the visibility data, is my understanding, and it will share that in the Google Search Console data. It won't share what prompts you got clicks from. It won't share that kind of referral traffic, but Google Analytics does a little bit. So it's still a bit ropey, but I imagine if you fast forward 6 months, then I think you'll be able to see what you're visible for. Answer Architect will tell you which terms you're citable for. So what the actual term was, or the question. Is that what you mean? Like what was it that?
The thought of it's understanding that if someone types in our case, we're sort of business mobility tool. It's just sort of saying, so the question is like, what do I need to sort out all my employee drivers that don't have a company car, whatever those the actual raw input that's almost like a search term, but it's a sort of context specific question that's going into Claude or ChatGPT, wherever it's going, that we will see visibility on that at some stage. Or is it just inevitable that eventually somebody will build something that pulls that all through, or is that, or are the LLMs going to keep that as their sort of IP on their side?
No, I think eventually we'll get visibility on all of it at a low price point. I think at the moment, if you want visibility on that, I think there are providers who'll give you that, but you might be talking about like £1,000 a month or like £500 a month or something. So you're going to have to pay for that visibility. But I imagine that will then sit in the platforms that always want to win. So a lot of those SEO reporting platforms are starting to building extra modules. They're still building this stuff, and then because of that, it's at quite a high price point.
Okay.
I think it will come.
Great. Thank you. Ollie, I had put 3 in, and I'm conscious of chewing up both that were over time or it. But if we have time, I'd go to the third one because I think that's more relevant for the group, if that's okay.
Absolutely, Jeff. You fire ahead. And so anyone else who's got any questions after Jeff, please get prepared and ready to ask them.
All right, thank you both. So my third question was about YouTube. You mentioned, I think you said 25%, which is quarter of all reference traffic. So on YouTube, is it that means we need to be present in organic, i.e. creating short videos or whatever it is? Or is it around paid, sitting on the bumpers of everyone trying to desperately skip through them before they get into the video they want to watch, or is it both?
In the organic is the opportunity. So I mean, paid is paid. So yeah, there'll still be the paid option. But I think in the organic, it's YouTube Shorts is one of the biggest opportunities because that's actually quite easy to do. So Jeff, if you thought of 100 questions that you could answer, if every morning it's a bit like going to the gym. Once you get into the rhythm, then you get into some rhythm, you start getting some traction. It becomes a bit normal. You just a different thing that you do. But a lot of people say to me, well, because we launch YouTube channels for people as well, so we help them to solve that problem. So we'd have video editors, and we can help to launch, have the strategy and all that kind of thing. But often when I speak to businesses and they say, well, YouTube, we can't really do that because our people wouldn't look good on camera, or or we don't know what we're doing, or we don't know, we can't edit it, and we wouldn't have fancy production and all that kind of stuff. But if every day when you came into the office and you said, right, I've got half an hour, and you wrote down 5 questions, or you'd prepared them before, and you did a 60-second video for each question, you're just giving the audience the answer to all of the questions that they want. Now, it doesn't matter if nobody watches YouTube. It doesn't matter if nobody watches you. The fact that it's 25% of citations has a huge revenue value, and so more and more people are going to jump on this. It's just that it's early. It's early in the curve. So the opportunity to go onto YouTube right now is the opportunity to kind of own that space before even people are even realizing that that's an opportunity. But you could probably answer 5 questions in a morning. You could probably answer 100 questions in a month and 1,200 questions in a year. And those are all going to be citable. So that's one way of doing it. You don't need an editing team. You just upload it, put a title, a description. You could give that 60-second video to Gemini and tell it, I want to come up with a title that meets the search term for that question, and a description, and it'll watch the video and give you all of that, and you just upload it. So that's one way. I also think that YouTube will collapse the sales funnel and also build authority, because there is a sea of AI content and there's a sea of AI fake content too. AI video is so realistic right now that but when you show up rawly on camera, and if you got good at presenting and you did medium form and long form, then you can't really fake that, and people still kind of, they can tell, they buy from people, that it's actually the rawness, it's actually your flaws that are the advantage now. So I think anyone can do it. It's not about, oh, but what if I'm not visible to people? Who cares about the people? There's a transcript. You've got an opportunity to make 25% more revenue by showing up on YouTube.
That's really helpful. I think it's also, to your credit, Dean, it's a super pragmatic. Often I think the subject feels like super theoretical for small businesses, but you've been pragmatic both with your slides, but also that's really helpful. So YouTube Shorts, don't mess about with paid or even long form, just create the content around specific questions that can be answered in 60 seconds that you think your audiences might be asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think if you're looking at the long form side of things, then you want to be thinking kind of like playlists. Make it like a channel where people can come and do sales. Make it so that your salespeople can use those videos at different points of the sales process, when you get to the sales process. And that we know from working with people and from ourselves. It's funny because they come to a conversation and it's not, okay, so tell me about yourselves so I can work out. It's, I watched a couple of your YouTube videos. So look, these are the questions I had. You've just taken away kind of a lot of that discovery side of things. If you're giving value, if you're giving the right videos.
Great. Okay. I have a third question, which is a bit less pragmatic, really, which was around much talk about display advertising appearing on various of the LLMs and being separated out. Is your view that when that happens, the opportunity for people on this call narrows a bit, because despite them all saying that it's not going to influence their algorithms and there's going to be completely Chinese wall between paid and the sort of like organically generated answers, surely that's not how these companies work in the long term, that they will be influenced by what's in the paid content. So as a result, the pure, if you like, organic stuff starts to rank lower in terms of what comes back. Appreciating it's not about ranking, it's about context, but contextually it sits lower.
I think it's gonna almost appear. I mean, it'll be noted as sponsored, but I think it's almost going to appear in the answer. And we're going to find out in the next 6 months, because ChatGPT is in the UK. And So Reddit is a good example of this, because Reddit is a forum that's an answer forum that people go to ask questions to get answers, and advertisers are already advertising in those channels in the chat, and it just comes up as sponsored. So it will let you know, but it will come up in the chat almost.
Okay, great, thank you. So, thanks to the group for indulgence for banging away 3 questions there, and thank you for that. I'm going to put another one in the chat if we have time, but I'll leave you alone for the moment.
Thanks,
And
Jeff.
also,
thank you very much.
email me, Jeff, if you need to, and any questions you've got, I'm happy to answer for anyone any questions that they have.
Thanks,
Jeff. Thank you. I've got a question. It's quite out there, possibly a little bit naive and potentially very theoretical. Is this something governments could look at in an attempt to drive GDP or potential drive business to SME and founders? It's been government policy in the UK now for a long time to improve conditions for SME business owners. We've got the SME Charter and other things, improving payment terms and all these sort of things. Is it something the government could look at and encourage SMEs to really move towards and get involved with?
I don't see why not. It's not something I've looked into, if I'm being honest, Ollie. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I almost feel sorry that everything worked the way it worked. We didn't really need to make a change here. But like anything, once that change has been made, then you have to meet people where they are, and people are using AI because it's easier, so they probably should look at it.
Absolutely. I see this as a game changer. And we'll be sitting here in 5 years' time, Dean, talking about the 50 iterations since. Yeah?
Yeah. Well, it changes every week, every month, which is part of what we try to do. We're not an we do all of those different platforms, but we do one thing. We help people to be the obvious choice and recommended by AI. That's it. That's our mission. Those platforms are just the tools to do that, and we don't choose that. It's just that's the data.
Thank you very much, Dean. Any questions? Any final questions for Dean whilst he's with us this morning? Looking around the room.
Mine's perhaps a little bit in the future, but given you just said there about people ultimately still buy from people, so hence the benefit of doing real content rather than perfected AI stuff. So could you see in the future that agent to agent purchasing coming to businesses like mine, where it is like people do buy because they trust me, because they feel I can deliver for them, which is quite different from buying, like, I don't know, a tech product or something. Yeah, do you see that agent to agent stuff moving into that arena?
I think we're in an opinion based at the moment, so I could give you my opinion on that, which is no. I think we're going to come back to a space where people buy from people thing. I think the more AI gets involved, the more people are going to warm to people. So I probably share Microsoft's view of those layers, is that I've gone on camera and said traditional search is going to go away. I've made the bet that the blue links will go completely, and Google's CEO is not really kind of disputing that. It's a bit like a football manager talking about a transfer. They're not denying it. They could deny it, but I think that people will do that kind of, you have to meet the buyers where they are. Some people won't move from how they've always done it. So I think but when it comes to things that are around like what you do, Helen, then I don't think they will do agent to agent. But that's just my opinion. And as we get used to stuff, we tend to adopt it. So I don't know.
Who knows for the future? Yeah, cool. Super useful. Thanks, Dean.
One thing I would say as well, though, is that the ultimate ending. So when we talk about everything in marketing, you should have an AI lens first, and then a people lens. Is my opinion now, so that you've always got that focus. But the ultimate answer is, when AI engines are trying to decide what the best answer is, their job is to give the very best answer for the person and the search intent. So at the end of the day, even if it's, if you don't do this, you won't be visible in AI. AI still has a job to give the very best answer at the moment to the person. So as long as you're trying to do, be brand clarity, really crystal clear about how you help, thinking about your audience, delivering marketing that they're interested in, but you make it super simple and clear for AI and people, then I think you're going to have the very best answers anyway in the end for people. So it always comes back to the people, which is kind of reassuring.
Any final questions, guys? No, I think we've exhausted. That's been excellent, Dean. Really, really good.
Thank you very much for having me.
Because these things are evolving all the time, I want you to book another talk, please, in a month or two. And we're also looking at doing a case study with Startup to Stand Up as a guinea pig, and we can report openly back on that as well. I think that would be cool. So yeah, thanks very much for that this morning, Dean. Hope to see everyone on Wednesday. Dean, you're going to get a lot of love, big ups, and the rest of it on LinkedIn and
Thanks,
other
Dean.
media. So that'd be wonderful. And
Cheers.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend,
everyone.
Thank you.